Today we will be looking at cache memory. Cache memory. So let's dive in. Before then, what is cache memory? When we talk of cache memory is a high speed memory chip that stores frequently accessed data. It is located close to the CPU and is faster but smaller and more expensive than main memory. So we can also say that cache memory is a chip-based computer component that makes retrieving data from the computer's memory more efficient. It acts as a temporary storage area that the computer's processor can retrieve data from easily. This temporary storage area, known as a cache, is more readily available to the processor than the computer's main memory source, typically some form of dynamic random access memory, that is the DRAM, or DRAM. So cache memory is sometimes called CPU, that is the central processing unit memory, because it is typically integrated directly into the CPU chip or placed on a separate chip that has a separate bus interconnect with the CPU. Therefore, it is more accessible to the processor and able to increase efficiency because it is physically close to the processor. In order to be close to the processor, cache memory needs to be much smaller than main memory. Consequently, it has less storage space. It is also more expensive than main memory as it is a more complex chip that yields higher performance. What it sacrifices in size and price, it makes up for in speed. Cache memory operates between 10 to 100 times faster than RAM, requiring only a few nanoseconds to respond to a CPU request. The name of the actual hardware that is used for cache memory is high speed static random access memory, that is the SRAM or the SRAM. The name of the hardware that is used in a computer's main memory is DRAM. Cache memory is not to be focused with the broader term cache. Caches are temporary stores of data that can exist in both hardware and software. Cache memory refers to the specific hardware component that enables computers to create caches at various levels of the network. Now let's move on to the types of cache memory. So cache memory is fast and expensive. Traditionally, it is categorized as levels that describe its closeness and accessibility to the microprocessor. There are three general cache levels. We have the level 1 cache, the level 2 cache, and the level 3 cache. So when we talk of the level 1 cache, it is also known as the primary cache. It is extremely fast but relevantly or relatively small and is usually embedded in the processor chip as CPU cache. For the level 2 cache, it is also known as secondary cache. It is often more capacious than level 1, level 2 cache. So the level 1 and the level 2 cache may be embedded on the CPU, or it can be on a separate chip or co-processor and have a high speed alternative. System bus connecting the cache and CPU. That way it doesn't get slowed by traffic. The mains by traffic on the main system bus. For the level for the level 3 cache, um It is specialized memory developed to improve the performance of the level 1 and the level 2 cache. So the level 1 and the level 2 cache can be significantly faster than the level 3, though level 3 is usually double the speed of the drum with multi-core processors. Each core can have dedicated level 1 and level 2 cache, but they can share an level 3 cache. If an level 3 cache references an instruction, it is usually elevated to a high level of cache. So let's look at a clear diagram of how the cache memory is. So we can see that we have the memory address from the processor to the main memory, and at the same time the main address um, from processor to the cache. So within the cache we can see that we have the address and the data, as you can see. So let's move on to the um, cache memory mapping. Let's look at the cache memory mapping. So for the caching configuration continue to evolve, but cache memory traditionally works under three different configurations. Direct map cache. We have direct map cache, and we have the fully associative cache mapping, and we have the set associative cache mapping. So for the direct map cache has each block mapped to exactly one each cache memory location. Conceptually, a direct map cache is like rows in a table with three columns. The cache block that contains the actual data fetched and stored. A tag with all or part of the address of the data that was fetched, and a flag bit that shows the presence in the row entry of a valid bit of data. Now let's move on to the fully associative cache mapping. Associative. The fully associative is similar to direct mapping in structure, but enables memory block to be mapped to any cache location rather than to be a pre-specified cache memory location. Now let's move on to the set associative. The set associative as well. The set associative cache mapping can be viewed as a compromise between direct mapping and fully associative mapping, in which each block is mapped to a subset of cache locations. It is sometimes called the n-way set associative mapping, which provides for a location in main memory to be cached to any of n locations in the L1 cache. So now let's move on to the cache um, write policies, or cache writing policies, or data writing policies. So for data can be written to memory using a variety of techniques, but the two main ones involving cache memory are the following. So we have the write through and we have the write back. But if time permits me, I will add the dirty bit, which indicates if cache data is modified. But now specifically we are going to look at the write through and the write back. So the write through, for the write through, data written to cache and main memory is simultaneously. So data is written to both the cache and main memory at the same time. That is the write through. For the write back, data is only written to the cache initially. Data may then be written to main memory, but this does not need to happen and does not inhibit the interaction from taking place. The way data is written to the cache impacts data consistency and efficiency. For example, when using write through, more writings needs to happen, which causes latency upfront. When using write back, operations may be more efficient, but data may not be what consistent between the main and what cache memory. So one way a computer determines data consistency is by what examining the dirty bit in memory. The dirty bit is an extra bit included in memory blocks that indicates whether the information has been modified. If data reaches the processor's register file with an active dirty bit, it means that um, it is not up to date and there are more recent versions elsewhere. This scenario is more likely to happen in a write back scenario because the data is what written to the two storage areas what um asynchronously. Yeah. So now let's move on to the specialized caches. Let's look at the specialized caches. So for specialization, in addition to instruction and data caches, other caches provide specialized system function according to some definitions. The level 3 cache share design makes it a specialized cache. Other definitions keep the instruction cache and the data cache separate and refer to each as a hot specialized cache. So let's look at the translation look aside buffers. That is the TLB. So for the TLB, they are also specialized memory caches whose function is to record virtual address to physical address translation. So other caches are not technically speaking memory caches at all. These caches, for instance, can use DRAM or flash memory to provide data caching, similar to what um, memory caches do with CPU instructions. If data is frequently accessed from the disk, it is cached into DRAM or flash-based silicon storage technology for faster access time and response. Now let's look at clear diagram of what we are talking about. So this is a memory hierarchy or hierarchy, how you pronounce it. So you can see we have a computer, the virtual address to the translation, which is known as the physical address to the virtual memory. So we have the cache memory. It is very small and fast. And we have the main memory and we have what the secondary memory. For the secondary memory, it is what large and what slow. So now let's move on to the locality. The locality, the ability of cache. So the ability of cache memory to improve a computer's performance relies on the concept of what locality of reference. Locality describes various situations that make a system more predictable. Cache memory takes advantage of these situations to create a pattern of memory access that it can rely upon. There are several types of localities as we can see on the screen, but we talk about the two key ones for cache. But the two key ones for cache are the temporal locality and the spatial locality. For the temporal locality, This is when the same resources are accessed repeatedly in a short amount of time. And we have the spatial locality. This refers to accessing various data or resources that are near each other. That are what? Near each other. Now let's move on to the cache versus drum. The cache versus what? Drum. Or the cache versus the main memory. So um, for the drum, it is slower, it is large, and it is cheaper. And for the cache or the SRAM, it is faster, smaller, and more efficient. Both are hot, volatile. Both are volatile or volatile, how you pronounce. So for the cache versus virtual memory, virtual memory extends RAM using disk storage and used when RAM is full, enabling what? Larger program execution. Let's look at the performance and what? Monitoring. It improves CPU performance and speed. Um, Hit to miss ratio is key for what? Evaluating efficiency, and higher hit ratio means better performance. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming for today's lesson. You can leave your questions below. I will answer for you as well. Thank you and bye bye.